The gentleman from Colorado reserves. The gentlewoman from Minnesota is recognized.
And Mr. Speaker, I thank the representative from Colorado for yielding me the customary 30 minutes, and I yield myself as much time as I may consume. Today we are here to consider H-Res 1017, a rule providing for consideration of H.R. 6833 and H.R. 3617. This rule makes, in order, no Republican amendments, completely ignoring the flaws of each underlying bill and the thoughtful concerns raised by my colleagues. Not only do my colleagues not want to debate these issues, but they also don't appear to even want to acknowledge them. First, I want to address H.R. 6833, the Affordable Insulin Now Act, which would require health insurers to cover selected insulin products without applying any deductible or imposing any cost sharing in excess of $35. This bill is just a partisan exercise that will only reshuffle the decks for how patients pay for insulin. It is not a serious attempt to address rising prices. The price controls in this legislation would be an expansive intervention into the free market and will most likely lead to an increase in premiums for everyone. Let's not forget, one of the reasons drug prices are rising is because of Washington and the majority's runaway spending leading to the greatest deficits in American history. Instead of admitting that their wildly expensive spending bills have caused inflation, my colleagues claim that companies have suddenly decided now is the time to raise prices arbitrarily. Congress cannot keep dumping money into the economy and then blaming American companies for the problems it creates. We need to be focusing on getting our debt under control and stop the war on American industry so that we can reduce prices, not just on drugs, but on everything. Furthermore, addressing only insulin establishes a problematic precedent and fails to take into account the high prices associated with countless other necessary drugs, like those for cancer, heart disease, and a slew of other conditions. A sincere attempt by Congress to solve this problem would be to focus on ways to reduce pricing through market-based forces. For example, Republicans on the Energy and Commerce Committee have offered several proposals which would improve price transparency so that Americans could see the real cost of their drugs and make choices accordingly. Instead of working with Republicans to advance these solutions, the majority has yet again elected a go-it-alone approach that has yet to achieve any results for the American people. Next is H.R. 3617, the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act, a broad bill that would remove pot from the list of scheduled substances under the Controlled Substances Act and eliminate criminal penalties for anyone who manufactures, distributes, and possesses marijuana. This rule makes no Republican amendments in order, which is proof that the Democrats just want to push this bill as a messaging bill. That said, there are several concerns with this bill. First, it fails to set any standards to prevent marijuana use by those most vulnerable to abuse, minors. In fact, back in September, when Mr. Fitzgerald offered an amendment to alter the definition of the term minor to align with other provisions in U.S. Code, the majority voted against it. Without this amendment, crucial protections for our youth are left out of this bill. In committee, I even offered a motion to consider an amendment that would maintain existing penalties for selling pot to minors. It was defeated along party lines, a stunning position for Democrats to take. But not only does this bill legalize pot, it creates a new government program to assist people in opening pot stores. Let me repeat that. This bill creates a government program to help people open pot stores. This bill also ignores the issue of driving under the influence, even though driving under the influence of marijuana can have deadly consequences, something law enforcement officers across America have warned about. Additionally, what happens if an illegal immigrant is arrested for driving under the influence of marijuana? This is not addressed. Republicans in the committee sought to ensure that this bill does not impede with the deportation of illegal immigrants who have been arrested for driving under the influence. That was also rejected along party lines. There are so many issues our constituents are facing today, yet we are here spending time considering legislation to legalize pot that is not only flawed, but it is also dangerous. We could be working on lowering gas prices, tackling the snowballing federal debt, or addressing the inflation affecting every American today. But instead, I guess the majority wants us to get as high as today's gas prices and spend tax dollars on pot stores. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I oppose the rule and the underlying bill. I ask members to do the same, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentlewoman from Minnesota reserves. The gentleman from Colorado is recognized.